Oh, Ricky said, "What's up?" And you were like, "Okay." You were
Oh,
frozen.
Ricky was frozen for me.
Well, we're live now, guys. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the latest edition of You Get What You Get. I'm Rickey Hampton, along with my co-hosts, Tree McDougal and Tim Turner. Come to you on a Tuesday evening. Hope everybody's having a fantastic day. And Tim and Tree, we have an absolute legend on the show with us tonight to start us off. One of America's great golf writers, the author of I think the greatest golf book ever written, Uneven Lines, the one and only Mr. Pete McDaniel. And we're going to talk about the whole situation going on the PGA Tour with Pete, PGA Tour and Live Golf as they have decided to merge along with the DP Tour, which is the European Tour. At the bottom now, we're going to be joined by former NBA New Jersey Nets shooting guard Derek Garvin, the little brother of the Iceman. Of course, Derek could put it in the basket just like his big brother, and he's going to help us break down the NBA Finals, which is now 1-1 with Miami and Denver as they head back to Miami for Game 3 tomorrow. But let's start this off with Pete. Pete, it is absolute honor and pleasure to have you on, brother.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Ricky. It's been a while.
Yeah,
where have you been? Matter of fact.
Well, I've been pretty much with Tiger, waiting for him to come back, man. But
you've been in the woods. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. But I want to get into this, and guys, I want to play this. This is from just about a year ago, and this is PGA Tour Commissioner Jay Monahan talking with CBS sportscaster.
9/11
Jim
Families United sent a letter to the representatives of Phil, Dustin, Bryson, Reed, and others, quote, expressing their outrage towards the golfers for participating in the new league and accusing them of sports washing and betraying the United States, end quote. That's gotten a lot of steam over the last 24 hours. That story first reported again in the New York Post. How much did you talk to your players about the possible ramifications if they sign on with the new league?
Well, I talked to players. I've talked at a player meeting, and I've talked to a number of players individually for a long period of time. And I think you'd have to be living under a rock to not know that there are significant implications. And as it relates to the families of 9/11, I have two families that are close to me that lost loved ones. And so my heart goes out to them. And I would ask, any player that has left or any player that would ever consider leaving, have you ever had to apologize for being a member of the PGA Tour?
That's sad.
Start us off, Pete. What's going on here?
Well, the interesting word that he used was betrayed. And in light of what happened today, you want to know who was betrayed. But just to give you a little bit of history of this, as you and I were talking earlier, the LIV actually, in my opinion, and from all the reporting, evolved out of a feud between Greg Norman and the PGA Tour. Greg Norman was the big cheese before Tiger on the PGA Tour. And he wanted to start a world tour, which combined and merged all of the various tours, the Asian Tour, the European Tour, the PGA Tour, and the PGA Tour top brass said, no, we're not going to do that. They didn't like Greg after all, because of his power mongering. He thought he was more powerful than the PGA Tour commissioner. And so that started the feud. And now you fast forward to a couple of years ago, apparently Phil found a backer for his world tour idea in the Saudi Arabia, who put up all of this so-called "quote unquote" blood money to lure some of the top players from the PGA Tour on a tour that consisted of 54-hole tournaments. And as we all know, the PGA Tour has 72-hole tournaments, and the lure was a cash grab of unprecedented proportions. As a matter of fact, I think it was reported that Tiger Woods was offered $700 million to sign with LIV. Other players, top players, DJ Dustin Johnson, Koepka, who won the PGA Championship recently, DeChambeau, those type players were lured by a lot of cash, and they said at the time that it was a matter of being able to devote more time to their families. They came up with all these excuses, but this is America. We all knew this is capitalism at its best. And basically what they did was capitalize on their fame, and they took the money. It was a matter of greed, in my opinion. So here we are today. The PGA Tour Commissioner, Monahan, basically drew a line in the sand and said that all of those defectors would not be allowed to return to the PGA Tour. And the PGA Tour has the Ryder Cup. It has all the major championships under its auspices. And you have to be a member of the PGA Tour to be able to compete in those premier events. So that made all of the LIV defectors outcasts. But I think I'd prefer to be an outcast if they were paying me $400 million like they did some of those outcasts. And the heck with the $4 million that I was going to win for a PGA Tour event. So, but the hypocrisy was they called it blood money. They pointed to all of the atrocities, the civil rights atrocities, the acts of violence, the murders that were attributed to the Saudis. When this country may be the most corrupt country in the world, and it has its own history of atrocities. So that was a hypocrisy, as far as I'm concerned. Now we fast forward to today, and now you have this merger, something that Monahan said would never happen as long as he was commissioner. So here we are. So who got betrayed? I kind of feel sorry for some of the top spokespeople for the PGA Tour who eschewed that money from the Saudis. People like Rory McIlroy. I don't feel sorry for Tiger. Tiger's a billionaire. So what would $700 million? Well, I guess it would make a difference. But, you see the point I'm trying to make. But Rory put his word on the line. He backed the PGA Tour commissioner all the way, through this 2 years and I think a couple months ordeal. And what does he have to show for it? His word is shot. They betrayed him and Justin Thomas and some of the top players who decided to stay with PGA Tour. That's where the scandal really is.
Yeah, and when I think about the PGA Tour, and they have tried to portray themselves as this virtuous organization when the PGA Tour was founded on racism. Games to be played by members of the Caucasian race only. I mean, you're not virtuous. There's nothing virtuous about that. And the man said, you would never be able to play on the PGA Tour if you make this move to LIV. And he just went back on his word. And I understand, you can just see why guys are so upset. For number one, leaving a lot of money on the table, Tree. And now these other guys who took $50 million, $100 million, they're going to get to come back and take money out of your pocket on tour now as competitors.
Mm-hmm.
True. The money is kind of taking over, and the other part of it is stopping those lawsuits that were, in play. So, one of the things that the Liv was saying, this is for the betterment of the game, but now you hear the PGA leadership using that same term. So, is it for the betterment of the game? I think it's most likely about money, as Pete said.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd like to know how much money under the table that Monahan was promised, because he got his bag. I guarantee you, to switch course like he did, totally unexpected. That's highly suspicious.
Well, yeah, I was looking at some stuff early today, and just from people who are out on golf courses preparing for tournaments this week,
Mm-hmm.
the players found out just about the same time that we did. There was no discussion about this. This was a done deal. So he got paid. Monahan got paid. But this is the thing. I've heard people. I was watching Wilbon and Kornheiser today, and Wilbon made the gross comparisons to the ABA NBA merger.
I saw that. Yeah.
The AFL NFL merger. But the thing about it is, these are both American leagues that were competing against each other, and there was no blood money behind it per se. They didn't have in the ABA or the AFL. 15 of the hijackers were not Saudis in the ABA or the AFL.
Mm-hmm.
They talk about the human rights atrocities. America guilty as charged. Lee Elder being the first person to play in the Masters. And how many years was the PGA in existence before that? Charles Sifford going out there on the golf course playing. He goes to pick up a ball in his first hole, and he has to he looks at the ball and sees where there's a cup filled with feces because the black guy was playing golf.
Mm-hmm.
So let's not get that twisted. It's all about finances. And the thing about it is now an American brand, PGA, is now owned by the Saudis.
Yeah.
Think about it.
That's exactly you hit the nail right on the head. This country is like Ricky and I were talking earlier. It's based on power and money and capitalism and so when this whole Live thing started, I was a little self-righteous myself, because I couldn't quite wrap my head around some of these great golfers who are already millionaires. Now, let's not make like they were already poor, that they had to have this money. All of them were millionaires. They took the money and the picture had been painted about the Saudis and them being murderers and all of the human rights atrocities that had been committed there. And then you get to thinking, well, our government has been doing business with Saudi Arabia all along. Our country has been doing business with every other so-called bad actor in the world. So why shouldn't its citizens take advantage of that quote unquote blood money as well? Who's guilty here, and who's to call one side worse than the other? This is the country we live in, so it's a sad situation. Like I said, my heart is kind of with those players who put their reputations on the line and really believed, and basically they were duped, they were pimped.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That is a great word for it. Hey Pete, I wonder, with Tiger essentially retired from golf now, when he was on the scene, came on the scene in '96, won the Masters '97, and you chronicle his entire career superbly, I might add. I mean, he was a powerhouse. He was a moneymaker for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Now suddenly, your moneymaker's gone for all practical purposes.
Mm-hmm.
How much do you think Tiger being really semi-retired on his way out impacted their decision? You know what? We better go take this money because we don't have Tiger to generate it for us anymore.
That could be a part of it. I mean, you asked me that earlier, and I haven't really had time to think about it, but because I hadn't even thought of it in those terms. Tiger really has been off the scene now for about 3 or 4 years, to be honest with you. Since he won the Masters, in 2019?
Yeah.
He's been kind of like an afterthought with all the injuries and the other issues that he has faced, the other challenges. But you look at the TV contract. Tiger brought in a lot of the TV money because he was the star, the consummate star on the PGA Tour, the biggest name on tour. And when he didn't play, the ratings suffered. So they've been suffering now for quite a while. He's played such a limited schedule. So you might have a point there, but you have all of these young guys who've come along and they're pretty doggone good players and they're dynamic in their own right, but they're not Tiger Woods. So that may be credible. That may be a credible point that you're trying to make. Maybe they're trying to make the money up. But putting your future, your fate in the hands of a foreign country, it leaves kind of a nasty taste in my mouth.
Yeah, I think I'd also heard they were trying to attract this would help attract younger people to golf. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, they're coming up with all kinds of stuff. There are different games now that Tiger Woods is behind. Pop stroke, I think it's a putting game. And they're building smaller golf courses for non-golfers to get into the game and young people. I think that's a good effort, but I think you lose the value of the competition. My son, I have 4 sons, and one of them plays golf, and we argue about this all the time. I'm not a participation kind of guy. I don't like just having my kids in a sport just to participate. I've been a competitor all my life. I was taught to compete in this world. And it's the only way that you can get by is to establish yourself as a serious competitor. I mean, you don't compete in everything, but mostly everything, and just to try to survive in this country. And so in that respect, I think some of these things trying to lure kids into the game just to participate, you lose that competitive edge. Now, they should focus a little bit more on the competition part of it. And in doing so, you learn a lot of great, valuable things that you can take in other parts of life. How to be a competitor, how to be an honest person, all these good things, all these good traits about golf. You can learn all of this, but just participating for the sake of participating, to me, has no value at all. But that's just my opinion.
I think the thing that probably galls me more than anything else about this merger is initially who they had as spokespeople up front. Greg Norman just was just an unlikable person coming out of that. And
Very
then
much.
the top golfer they had out there was Phil Mickelson, who has really a sketchy background, it seems like, away from golf. With some of the things that it seems like that he was making headlines off the course.
Mm-hmm.
And it seemed like he did not take the criticism well. Had he been a little bit more humble about it and not been so aggressively nasty about people questioning him about being over there at Live, and then I can imagine the tweets and the things that are going on with those cats over there, because Live thinks they won, and they did win. Live won. PGA lost. The DP tour lost. Live won. The Saudis won.
Mm-hmm.
And it's you know, like you said, everybody's a millionaire. Everybody's getting paid, not as much as other folks. Everybody's getting paid. This is like, you know, people screaming about the NFL owners, millionaires and players, millionaires and billionaires squabbling over money. It's not going to make a bit of difference to anybody at the third ward in Atlanta. What's going on with the LIV golf tournament between LIV and the PGA. But at the same time, they're talking about growing the game and getting people involved in this. And I don't see how this is going to help. Granted, it hasn't happened yet. And granted, all those LIV people, I think they'll be eligible to come back to the PGA next year, right? Is that the way it is?
I think that's what they're saying. We don't know the specifics yet. And that's, you know, that's a sad thing. If you're going to do this, you should have an outline of exactly what you're doing. They don't know what the tour is going to be called. They don't know whether they're going to, if it's a real merger, or whether they're taking part of the, you know, the competition that you have on the LIV and making it a part of the PGA Tour. You know, none of that has been explained in detail. So we really don't know how are they going to have some kind of, I'm sure they have some kind of team competition, which I think is idiotic. Shotgun starts and all that kind of stuff that the LIV adopted. That's not really golf. 54-hole tournaments. How can you establish any kind of history compared to the PGA Tour's competitive history? I'm not talking about all the negativity, the discrimination that has occurred, is still occurring on the PGA Tour. To be honest with you, if you don't believe it, get a badge to cover a tournament and be caught inside the ropes where you're legitimately supposed to be, and have a marshal come up to you and ask you why you're inside the ropes.
How many times did that happen to you, Pete?
Countless times. Now I'm on TV all the time. I'm the only black face inside the ropes at every doggone stop for 20 years or more, and I still had that stuff happening to me, you know, in Charlotte, everywhere from Charlotte all the way to New York, California. It didn't matter where it was. You know, they did not want to see a black man. They didn't want to believe that a black man was covering a golf tournament.
Yeah. That is the history of the sport. And one thing I like about this book, Uneven Lies, is that you talk about so many people thought golf started when Tiger got here.
Yeah.
But it was such a rich history of this game. And this gentleman right here, Teddy Rhodes, the golf father of the game to many, certainly my family. My father was the golf pro at Ted Rhodes Golf Course in Nashville, Tennessee, for 43 years. He was one of the first. And Pete, if he had had an opportunity to compete, there's no telling what he could have done.
He would have been great. There's no doubt. He was already great, you know, and on the tours that he was able to play on. And I have to take the word. I never saw him play. I have to take the word of people like Charlie Sifford, Calvin Peete, Jim Thorpe, you know, all those guys who did see him play, even though it was in his later years, of what a great ball striker he was, and what a great dresser he was, and a real fashion plate, a gentleman. Had he had a chance to play when he was at the height of his powers, there's no telling. You would have heard about him, I believe, mentioned among the names like Ben Hogan and Byron Nelson and guys like that, because he had that kind of talent. But you can say that about a whole lot of sports, you know, in this country. There were guys who were playing blacktop basketball who were absolute wizards with a basketball. Had they had an opportunity to play in the 50s, 40s and 50s, who knows how great they would have been, you know.
This book is a must-read. It's called Uneven Lies, The Heroic Story of African Americans in Golf by the great Pete McDougal. And Pete, I got to tell this quick story. When I was a kid, I used to shag balls for Ted. We used to call him Uncle Ben. Right. And I'd go out there with my glove, and he would hit 8 irons out to me, and I could just stand there and catch fly balls with my. I never had to move. They were softly laying in my glove, and I put them in the shag bag. The great Teddy Rose, and then this book really captures all of that. And we got to get out of here, Pete. But I got to ask you, why did you think this book was important to write?
It was important because just a very brief history. Dr. Calvin Sinnett had already written Forbidden Fairways, and a great book. It preceded mine, of course. But there were other stories that needed to be told that weren't in his book. And that's where I think the necessity arose. Some of these people that I knew personally, like Chuck Thorpe and Jim Thorpe and all these guys that I had met when I was growing up trying to play the game myself, they had a story of their own, and he kind of touched on them. And I needed to bring them to life, and that's why the book is important. It takes you all the way from 1896 all the way up to the present time, from the very beginnings of golf on these shores, including us. By us, you know who I mean, all the way to Tiger Woods, who is, in a lot of people's opinion, the greatest player ever. So it was important. We have to know our history. You can't believe the title of the book, Uneven Lies, is a double entendre. It refers to the fact that we had some terribly uneven lies in life and in the sport, and also the lie that they perpetrated that said that we never were involved in the game. We had no meaningful purpose in the game. So why should we be allowed to play? And
Pete,
the biggest lie.
I'm sorry, Pete, did you, in your book, and I'm looking forward to reading it, did you cover anything about the black caddies that were in Augusta? Or any
Absolutely.
black caddies?
Yes, absolutely. I knew a lot of those guys. This is deeply personal for me because I started out as a caddy, and I heard the tales of Augusta National and the Masters from some of the guys that I caddied for at Biltmore Forest Country Club, and of course we all watched them on TV. Those guys are my heroes, in their white coveralls, and that was the dream of a caddy, a local caddy. You wanted to caddy at Augusta National and be on TV, and be famous. So yeah, it's a very important story. But I also wrote about the wine steward at Augusta National, who was black and who picked the wine out for the dinners hosted by the previous winners. It's a very detailed story, and I wrote it in a very readable way, I believe. I don't even know if readable is a word, but you kind of get what I'm trying to say. It's not very sterile. It has a lot of color in it, because that's the way I write.
Hey, we got to get you back, man, because there's just so much more to talk about. We got our great friend Derek Gerben on hold here. But one more, and Derek, hold on, we're coming to you. This is from Carmela Brinson. What do you think about 13-year-old Jaden Soon from Burbank, California, who fell short of qualifying for the U.S. Open? I'm not familiar with his story, but I do wonder about the future of golf for young people of color. There are a few guys out there now. Harold Bonner is out there. Joseph Bramlett's out there. But what do you think about the future of black golf at the high level?
It really is coming on. There's something called the APGA tour. It's a black golf tour for young aspiring professionals. It's been around now for several years, and they get some funding from the PGA Tour. That's one of the good things the tour does. And you have some quite a few promising players on it. I was spoiled by Tiger. I admit it. I don't have a whole lot of interest in the game now because I want to see my guys win, not just participate. Giving you my spiel on that. But we do have some kids coming along, and I think we're going to be okay. You'll see more on TV. in the coming years. So I think it's going to be cool.
Okay. And the book is Uneven Lives. Get it. You can go anywhere they sell books, Amazon, and get this great book. Pete McDaniel, you are
one last thing before I go.
Yes, sir.
I'm writing my memoir right now. I'm a few chapters in, and this thing right here is one of those tell-all books from Pete McDaniel, and I talk about Tiger, and I talk about the tour, and I talk about my years growing up. It's titled tentatively Pete McD, From the Outhouse to the Penthouse with Tiger Woods.
Hey, when that book comes out, come back and we will talk about it.
I should have it finished by the fall. That's my goal.
All right, my brother.
Excellent.
Be strong. Thank you. That is Pete McDaniel.
Thanks, Pete.
Appreciate you checking in, my brother.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys.
And now we're going to bring on D. Gerv. D, thank you, first of all, for being patient with us. We went a little long talking golf with Pete McDaniel, but how are you doing, brother? And let's introduce Derek Gervin, former New Jersey Nets shooting guard, UTSA basketball legend, and my co-host of As Good as It Gets. Welcome to You Get What You Get with Tim Turner and Tree McDougal. What's up, D. Gerv?
Hey, how you doing? How you doing, Tim, Miss Tree? Good to see everybody this evening.
Good to see you too, sir.
Hey, man, we 1-1. Everybody thought Jim was just going to walk over these guys. What are your impressions of the first two games, especially the other night?
Well, of course, I picked Denver to win this series, to win the championship. Miami, to me, actually has outplayed them the first two games. First game one, they just didn't make shots. But I thought both games, Miami kind of pretty much controlled the tempo, surprisingly. After game two, I'm a little nervous because Denver is going to have to make the most adjustments, it looks like to me. Spoelstra has already made some adjustments with Kevin Love, and Cody Zeller. And now they have Tyler Hero coming back, I believe, for game three. So I'm a little worried about Denver on the offensive end, even more so than the defensive end. They didn't get a lot of looks the last game. I mean by that, good shots, rhythm shots like they usually get. Jokic had 4 assists and only 9 opportunities to get assists. And that meant that Miami was playing really good defense. They were making the guys work a little harder to get open. And so it was a good game, but I'm a little nervous, but I still believe in my Denver Nuggets to regroup in game 3 tomorrow.
Tim, Hero.
Oh, I was saying that I was watching something earlier tonight, and they have ruled him out for tomorrow night.
Oh, he's not going to play. Okay.
He's not going to play tomorrow night. But here's the thing. Okay, he had 4 assists. I think he had 14 the game before. But my goodness, I mean, what is that what Miami's going to have to do? Let him get his points. Just don't get beat by the other guys that are out there in the perimeter, Porter and I want to say Williams. Don't let those cats get hot. Is that the best way to go about the Nuggets? Because both games, Jokic looked like he was all world. He just didn't have the assists. And then in game 1, what is it? Miami only had 2 free throws in game 1.
Right. Yes, they set a record. Yeah.
Yeah, they had to be far more aggressive than they were on Sunday night.
For me, Tim, I don't even think they're giving him the points. They're making him work hard. The guy just has a great touch around that basket. He has some great moves. So he's earning his points. But the key is they kind of made an adjustment on Jamal Murray as far as putting Kevin Love in the lineup. And then they started Jimmy Butler, Mr. Buckets, Hemi Buckets, I'll call him now since he's trademarked the Hemi Buckets. They put him on Jamal Murray, and Jamal Murray's touches were different. I know all of you watched the game, Ms. Tree, all of you, and this is the thing for me. What adjustments will Denver make offensively as far as getting Jamal off the ball somewhat, as opposed to just having the ball in his hands? For me, that's kind of predictable when you got a bigger defender like Jimmy Butler guarding him. So they're going to have to figure out how they can get Jamal off the ball more. And then, of course, the other guys, Michael Porter Jr. and Bruce Brown, and those guys have to show up. Michael Porter's been horrible in these first 2 games from the three-point line. I think he's shooting like 15%, maybe 20%, like 3 for 15. So they got to improve, and they got to just knock down shots.
Did I hear that Jimmy Butler has a sprained ankle, badly sprained ankle? Is that true? You guys hear that?
Yeah.
They said that earlier. That was like the second round, though. He seems to be okay. He did get hurt, I believe, at the beginning of the second round or something. But he seems to have recovered. I think a lot of people think that Jimmy's because he's not scoring a lot, he's doing what's necessary for them to win. If you notice, Bam has been scoring a little bit, so that's taking some of the pressure off Jimmy. Jimmy's the type of guy that scores when he needs to score. So I hope Denver doesn't start focusing on that anymore, on that too much. Jimmy can score when Jimmy needs to score.
Yeah, and he did that down the stretch the other night. He had some big buckets for them. Hey, when you talk about Jamal Murray being off the ball, do you mean him getting it, catching and shoot? I just saw a clip of him where he dribbled it about 8 times, and he actually made the shot, but it was a tough fall-away shot he ended up making.
It's kind of like Steph, Ricky, when you put Steph in the pick and roll, and say you're playing a really good team that can make the adjustment, like you got a Lakers with an AD and whoever the other defender may be. They got to, instead of running the pick and roll all the time, they got to start letting Jamal run around and come off screens where he can catch the ball and get that extra half a second to get his shot off, as opposed to trying to beat Jimmy off the dribble like he tried to do on the last play of game 2. Jimmy knocked the ball out of his hand, and I hope people realize how important that little hit was when he knocked the ball out of Jamal's hand. Jamal had to go gather the ball again and then make his move and then try to shoot a step-back jump shot. And that's not the recipe for them to win. So they got to figure out other ways for him to be able to be effective and be able to get a second so he can get his shot off without Jimmy being there to contest.
And then, too, you have to think about the Heat's bench where you had Robinson come in there and play really well to get them back in the game.
Yeah.
They just have like a no-give-up nation.
Tree, Ricky, can I say this quickly? When you know you're in trouble. They just showed it, Ricky. You just showed it. When Tyler Hero, when Duncan Robinson's beating you off the dribble, your team is in trouble.
Yeah. He's done that a couple of times in the playoffs this year. Put it on the floor.
Yeah, that's scary. That's not what he's known for.
Right. Go ahead, Tree. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, no, I was just saying about the Heat. They don't give up,
No.
When they came back, they just I felt like Denver took their foot off the gas, and then Miami just came back, and I was thinking, okay, I can go to sleep. They're going to win, but nope. No, that's
true. They faded. Denver's faded in both games.
Yeah,
and you have to think about it. Okay, so what would you have done, Derek, on that last shot? Would you have taken the timeout, or would you have done what Malone did and let him just bring the ball up?
I think I would have let him go ahead and play it, so it didn't give Spoelstra time to call a timeout and set up his defense and make the proper substitutions. I like the play they got. I just didn't I thought Jamal, after that tip ball, and I was really nervous. I think that upset Jamal's rhythm, and he got a good look. It just was kind of a flat shot. So, they played. Miami just has to get credit for their defense. And Ms. Tree, what you said is so true. I'm an Animal Planet guy, so it kind of reminded me, they got the wild dogs out there. The wild dogs get you in a long, long chase. Yeah. And that's what Miami reminds me of. Miami's, you can think you're put them away, and they just so resilient. They are not going to quit. And anytime you have a little lull, a 3 or 4 minute lull, here they come. And that's who they've basically been all year, even though they struggled early in the year. This is basically who they've been. They just making more shots now.
And see, you just showed a clip of two guys on the screen at the same time who are the biggest dogs of the dog. I think Lowry and Adebayo are the guys that really are the grit guys. They really infuse a lot of energy in those cats, especially coming off the bench with Lowry. He seems like he always is making big shots, always playing hard, coming in there.
Yeah.
I'm nervous. We got to make the most adjustments. If you notice, Jeff Green and those guys have been kind of MIA lately. The last two games, Bruce Brown in the Lakers series and the prior series, Bruce Brown had some really good scoring games. And if you look at it, he had 11 points in game 2, but they weren't very impactful points. Michael Porter Jr. has 5 points or whatever in game 2, which is terrible. And I believe KCP had about 6 points. So these are guys that have supplied a lot of scoring energy throughout the playoffs, and they're going to have to do it again because if you look at it, Miami's shooting way better than they did in the regular season. And that's been a problem for Denver because they're not getting the same production on their offensive end.
Well, Porter's a shooter, and he's already promised from today in the media availability that he says, I'm getting good looks. Those shots are going to go down on Wednesday night. So that's to be seen. He realizes he hasn't done a whole lot. But he says, I'm getting good looks. These shots will go down.
That's the way he has to think. I mean, right? But that has to be his mindset, right?
It has to be, but the thing is with Michael Porter, is I will give him credit. He's still stayed within the game, engaged rebounding wise. I think he could have been a lot better defensively. He had too many times he went to sleep on his man off the ball defensively. So he can correct that, but he's been engaged on the rebounds and helping his team on the other end somewhat.
I think Gordon was the same way because, I mean, you would see whenever somebody had a wide open shot, it's because those guys were collapsing on somebody else instead of sticking with their own man.
Can you, and if you tell me why do they have Michael Porter, who is 6'10", only playing on the 3-point line, basically? That's the problem for me. He's not involved in the pick and roll, so he's become a catch and shoot guy as opposed to him playing in the post like they did with Aaron Gordon in game 1 and using their mismatches. I'm saying now you have to pull out all stops. There is no more tomorrow. So Mike Malone's going to have to make some adjustments as well. It's not just Spoelstra has made the adjustments. Now Mike Malone's going to have to make some adjustments for tomorrow's game.
Well, I'm glad you said Malone because he's throwing the whole team under the bus for their effort. I didn't see any lack of effort out there.
I saw some lack of effort with Mike Malone. He the one didn't make some of the adjustments, so he could blame. Michael Porter did go to sleep a few times, but that's not like it's something that's abnormal. So Mike Malone is going to have to take some accountability. I've heard him rip into these guys, and some of it's justified. But I'm going to say on the other side, what I don't like about it, if you listen to Jimmy Butler's interviews, it's never about him. It's always about us, what we can do better. And that's what I need to hear Mike Malone say one time. And when he says that, then I'll know he's taking accountability. And I think that'll filter down to the rest of the guys. You don't want to just keep getting beat down, having beat down sessions. Mike Malone needs to take some responsibility as well.
Yeah, but hey, Denver's not a great defensive team anyway, are they? I mean, there's nothing great about what they did.
Their team, Ricky, they've been throughout the playoffs. They've been a good team when it's needed. They have their laws defensively, but they've been locked down defensively in the fourth quarter. And that's what's got me nervous. If you look at it last game, Miami started off the fourth quarter 9 for 10.
Yeah.
And that's not going to win if you're the team that's playing defense. So it has to be more communication. They don't seem to be talking as much as they should be. Guys are late on their rotations, and it's been hurting them. And you see Miami get a lot of open shots, just like they did in game 1. Just this time they made the shots.
Hey, man, you know, if we were at the Y playing a noontime pickup game and the Joker was in there, that dude probably be by the looks of him, he'd be the last guy picked. He'd be all right, come on, man. You can run with us.
Miss Tree, I'm taking Miss Tree before I take Jokic, and I don't mean that as an insult. I'm just saying He doesn't. He looks like a guy that's maybe just coming around to see what's going on, just to watch the games. It's amazing. But Ricky, with him now, I think he's smart enough to make the adjustments as far as talking to the players and getting them in better positions to receive the ball. I think he's that good. He kind of makes Mike Malone's job a lot easier. And I think tomorrow the role players have to step up, but Jokic will find a way to get it done. I really believe that.
Did you see these European guys coming in the early stages when you played overseas? You led the league in scoring overseas. Could you see this wave of great players coming from over there?
Well, I told you before, I saw some guys when I played, even like some older guys like Wally Serbiak, used to play with Minnesota. His dad was a really good player. Walter Serbiak was a guy that could give you 50 points on any given night. We know Oscar Schmid, for those that study the game. Oscar Schmid from Brazil was one of the greatest scorers we've ever seen. I told you a lot of the reasons these guys didn't come is because they were making their home country was making it more than worth their while to stay home and to continue to work on their craft over there. And they paid them and made it worthwhile. So a lot of those guys just didn't take the opportunity to come to the NBA.
I appreciate you picking me over Tim.
Hey, Tree got drafted over the Joker. How about that?
Well, you look, I'm just saying, you probably, I'm sure. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. What were you going to say?
No, I was just saying, you look like an athlete there. So if you look at Joker, he really does. I'm not going to call him names like Stephen A. Smith. Stephen A. Smith kind of went overboard.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I didn't like the names. He was a tub of lard and all that kind of stuff. That's going out of bounds to me. The guy doesn't have the body for it, but he has the brains, the mentality. And he's just a very cerebral guy. I love seeing what he's doing.
Yeah, they read a scatter report a couple of games ago, and it was the most negative thing in the world. And I'm thinking, if I'm the front office of all those teams that picked other guys who are not bagging groceries and overlook this cat, I mean, I would really take a hard look at my scouting department because he is outstanding, and these other guys who they're picking and doing nothing. That's something that's like you have to be accountable for that. So, I mean, that doesn't mean every doughboy you see a tall doughboy playing basketball is going to be like the Joker. But my goodness, he has developed from where he was until now, and he's progressively gotten better. And it gives you hope for when you start looking over the other way. Like same with Luka. And you look at him, and he's like, he was a ready-made player when he came in because he was 16 playing against grown men. So that kind of thing. But these are some like outliers right now. And then the kid is going to come over and be the number one pick next year. Won by whatever.
Victor Wembanyama.
I saw a clip of him the other day of getting bullied by somebody who was a little bit smaller than him, but who had more muscle. So he may be a work in progress, but he may also turn out to be just like the Joker.
Can I ask the three of you if you've seen anybody like Joker? Because when he shoots the ball, it's kind of ugly. When we first started watching him shoot the sidearms and all that other stuff. And really, if you shoot, he was shooting that stuff, and I'm like, man, that's a terrible shot. Now, when he misses it, I'm surprised. I've never seen anyone with that touch around the basket like he does. He gets a lot of what I call lippers, Ricky, like in golf, the lipper when it's staying on the basket and then it drop in. He gets so many of those, man. I mean, it's amazing to watch. It is amazing to watch.
It is. I love watching him play.
Disrespect this game, but Skip Bayless kept saying a lot of his shots that fell were lucky. Lucky? Really?
Lucky that often.
It's a lot of luck.
Every time he's out there, you're right. It's a lot of luck. And every time he's out there on the arc, anytime he takes a three, I'm thinking it's going in. Yeah. It's not like that.
Wouldn't this have been 3 MVPs, Tim? Wouldn't this have been 3 MVPs in a row?
It should have been a third one. I think.
What is Skip? I'm just saying how insane Skip Bayless sound. This would have been 3 MVPs in a row.
Right.
What's luck about that?
Yeah.
There's none.
Now, you know, guy, this will be and you probably played against him, D. Gerv, and I'm saying he is a mini version, and because he wasn't physically fit or anything. I'm talking about Popeye Jones, especially on the college level. You wonder how's Popeye getting these shots off with his left hand, right hand around the basket. Did you play against Popeye?
No, I didn't play against him. I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think that I played against him in 1990. I might have played. I think I might have. I'm not sure. But yeah, Ricky, that's another guy you mentioned that's very awkward.
He was really.
I'll use the word awkward. But he also has soft hands, Ricky, and people never talk about Popeye. Very soft hands around the basket. He was the guy that will surprise you. Jokic is another version of Popeye. But yeah, those are two of the most awkward players that I've seen that are, the production is very high level.
And Popeye was 6'7", 6'8", and averaged 10 to 12 points a game. He was a great college player at Murray State. Hey, G, we just got a few more minutes here, and I want everybody to make sure they tune in Thursdays at 9 p.m. when Derek and I host As Good as It Gets. But T, your thoughts on this series going forward? You know, they're in Miami tomorrow night. It's a great opportunity for the Heat. What are you expecting?
Well, I'm hoping that tomorrow, I'm thinking Denver's going to come back and react tomorrow in a positive way. Miami is not the team you want to get behind, and because once they're the type team that they try to take your heart, and they're the type team that can end the series early. I think it's crucial for Denver to win tomorrow's game and to get that taste out of their mouth from game 2. They got to come out and execute on both ends of the floor, but the key is they got to do it tomorrow for 48 minutes. They can't have where they go through 2 or 3 minutes and they're making bad passes or bad shots. And that's going to be the key to me. I want to see them score more points, to be honest. I don't like right now that they've been held to 104 and 108. That's not Denver Nuggets basketball. I'm more used to the 115s, the 120s. So they got to try to find a way to pick up the pace. And that means from getting stops and getting hands on a lot of loose balls and being able to get out in transition. If we notice, they haven't gotten out in transition in these first 2 games as much as they had in the previous series. So that's what I'm going to be looking at, them being more engaged defensively and getting out on the fast break. And I think Denver pulls it out tomorrow.
Well, D, before you get up out here, there's just a couple of stories outside of the NBA Finals. Chief of them, I really want the finals to get over really quick because I really want to find out the penalty for Ja Morant. Because the fact that Silver said we don't want to take away from the NBA Finals to make the announcement, let you know that Ja's going to probably sit out maybe half a year or more because of his most recent transgressions. That's one story. Kyrie trying to recruit LeBron for Dallas is another one. And, it looks like Missoula will be looking over his shoulder or looking down the bench at Sam Cassell, who's now going to be on his coaching staff. Because it seems like they have a ready-made coach should he stumble again next year. Well,
what was your first one? The first one was about, oh, man, you hit me quick. Ja is I'm hoping that Ja can recover. Kim, all of you know on here. I don't know him personally, but I don't think Ja's a bad guy. I think Ja's making some horrible decisions. And whatever the punishment may be, I'm sure you all heard as well. I've heard about 40 games I've been hearing lately. So whether it's half the season or the whole season, I'm just hoping that he gets the message and he starts realizing how important he is to the league. Not just to the city of Memphis, but to the entire league and all these young people out here that he's a role model for. So I'm hoping he can come back like even better than ever, as they say, after he deals with his punishment. Whatever the punishment is, he's earned it, and he's going to have to deal with it. And I just hope he can bounce back from it. And then let me go Mike, you're going to have to hit me on the second one. You know I'm not 25 anymore.
Kyrie.
Tim, I'm sorry.
Kyrie.
Well, boy. I don't even want to waste a lot of time on that one because if it was LeBron recruiting Kyrie to LA, I'd probably say a little more. But all of you know that's insane to think that LeBron's going to pack up and leave his son, who's going to attend the University of Southern California, out there in the sunshine so you can go to the humidity of Dallas, Texas. I don't think that's realistic at all.
And Joe Mazzulla and Sam Ian.
Well, Ricky, to all of you, at first I was saying that I thought Boston needed to make a change, but the more I thought about it, Mazzulla has stepped into a situation that was not the best situation right from the beginning. You got a new coach. We know the Udoka situation that went down. So he never really got a chance to put his stamp on the team. Those are not his assistant coaches. And I believe 3 of them will be leaving to go to Phoenix soon. So I thought that they made a good decision to decide to keep him. Jason Tatum spoke up for him as soon as the playoffs were over. And you can see Tatum just seemed like they have a good rapport with each other. And so I think he's going to do well. It'll be nice to see him with some new assistant coaches. I believe they hired Sam Cassell as one of his assistants. So they're already on the right boat, and I just think the team will continue to get better. The key is what's going to happen with Jaylen Brown. Does he want to be in Boston is the key, and that's the whole question with the Boston Celtics.
And Boston said they definitely want him. Danny Ainge said we definitely want him. Tree, you want to end it with one final question for?
Yeah, I do. Well, it's not a question. I like to give a shout out to the women, and I see that the Atlanta Hawks. Hired their first female coach, their assistant coach, Brittany Donaldson. So,
fantastic.
Yeah, that is good news.
Go Hawks.
Well, can I say this quickly while you're on? Ms. Tree, what do you think about, and I got to ask you quickly, at some point, what do you think about Becky Hammond while she's still out there?
I don't know.
As a head coach.
I don't know sports. So who's Brick? Tell me who she is.
Well, she used to play for the New York Liberty, and she played for the San Antonio Silver Stars down here in San Antonio. And then she went on to become an assistant coach for the San Antonio Spurs. Right now, she's a world champion with the Las Vegas Aces women's WNBA team. And there's been a lot of talk in the last few years about her becoming a head coach. I thought it might happen here in San Antonio. So, yeah, just familiarize yourself with Becky Hammond. I think you would love her story.
I will.
Did she get an interview?
Go
ahead again.
I said, did she get an interview in Portland? She got an interview.
Yes, she's interviewed.
Well, you know what when they give like a token interview, I want her to get a real opportunity.
Yeah,
she's qualified. The players in San Antonio loved her. I really think she's capable of being an NBA head coach.
And that's what I was going to ask you. You've been in the NBA locker room,
sure she is.
As a former player.
Yeah, that'd be great. It's an opportunity.
Could a woman go in there and coach a team and lead a team? You don't see any problems with that?
She's got the disposition, Ricky. She's a man. All you have to do, you want your coach to be able to reach their players. And that means that's not just on the floor. That's also building relationships off the floor. And she's the type of person that really cares. I don't see her as a woman when it comes to the basketball game. I see her as a basketball genius that deserves to get an opportunity. If there's a woman out there that's going to break the trend as far as the head coaches in the NBA, she would definitely have my backing.
Yeah. Hey, you got to reach out to, just like you and Bill Fitch used to go to dinner every night when you played in New Jersey.
I wish that were true. Rest in peace, Coach.
Oh, dude.
Bill Fitch, boy, he could be hard to get along with.
But yeah, I had a hard coach.
But T. Gerb, hey, we'll be on Wednesday night, and you catch us on our African American Athlete Facebook page, and as good as it gets.
Ricky, you see Tim's face when you said Wednesday?
Did I say Wednesday? I mean,
you do, and then because you do your show. Ricky's got so much stuff going on. He's show Wednesday, Thursday.
No,
hey, you the man.
Hey, But I sure enjoy doing the show with Tree and Tim, and definitely enjoy doing the show with Derek. But we're going to get out of here, folks, and we'll see you next time.
All right. Be kind, everybody.
Hey, I love you all. Thanks for the invite, Ricky. Miss Tree, have a great night. Tim, have a great night.
You too.
I love you, Ricky. Have a good night.
All right.